You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Friday. Everybody's been working for the weekend, and well, here it is. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. This is our second live broadcast of the day. We do 2 every trading day. Now, the first broadcast, that's our live training room, so it's reserved for members only and those who are taking their 1-week free trial. If you have not taken your 1-week free trial, go to mytradingiq.com. At the top of the page, there's a link. It says 5-day free trial, no credit card required. Click the link, fill out the registration form, hit submit, and in most cases, we'll get your desktop set up the same day, get your indicators indicating, and then your trial will actually begin the next trading day, which is officially Monday. Now that means you'll have access to the indicators over the weekend, and that doesn't count against your trial. And sadly, I'm going to have to put you on hold for just 1 second. Hang on. Sorry about that. Unfortunately, I have a company coming today. Safe Light Repair, Safe Light Replace. My wife got a cracked windshield. They're coming to replace it. Dog barking. You think somebody's at the door, even though they're supposed to text me first. I'm sorry. Anyway, where were we? All right. Live training room. You already know how to sign up for the trial. You'll have the weekend to get familiar with the indicators. And then your trial will run through Monday through Friday of next week. I guess we got a holiday next week. So you'll end up with like an 8-day free trial because weekends and holidays don't count against your trial. So today would be a great day to sign up for the free trial because you'll get the indicators. Monday's July 1st. Thursday's the 4th. That won't count against you. So you get 4 days next week. You get this weekend, 4 days next week, next weekend, and then the following Monday. Whoa. I just turned a 5-day trial into a 9-day trial. Or the calendar did. So it never matters what day of the week or weekend or hour of the day that you sign up for the trial. You'll always get 5 consecutive trading days. Now, 2 trials per lifetime. They have to be 6 months apart. Yes, we track IP addresses. We have no other choice. I hope you understand. Okay? There's people in the trading world who are like, if something's free, then, well, you know what? Let's talk about positive things, okay? When the live training room ends each day at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, take a 30-minute break and come back for this broadcast, the afternoon broadcast, which is open to the public. Everybody, everywhere on planet Earth with an internet-connected device. There's a couple different ways to join the afternoon broadcast live. First, the best way, because you only have to do this once, go to mytradingiq.com and scroll down the page to where it says afternoon broadcast. Click the link, fill out that 30-second registration form, and you're done. What'll happen is every trading day going forward, you'll get an email about an hour before this broadcast starts. In that email, there's a link. So at 12 noon Eastern, all you have to do is click the link in the email, and it will automatically log you into our platform. Benefit there is you have access to the question box, so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Of course, there'll be days you're out of the office, away from the desktop, but you still want to join live. And there'll be days when you're busy, can't join live, but want to get caught up later. You can do both of those via our YouTube channel. It's easy to remember, youtube.com/CFRN. You already have the YouTube part memorized, so just remember CFRN. Now, not only do we broadcast live every trading day on our YouTube channel, as we're doing right now, we're simulcasting on our platform and on the YouTube channel, the wonders of technology, right? But we also archive each and every daily broadcast on our YouTube channel. Currently, there are over 2,500 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. If you're new to the world of CFRN, it's a great way to get to know who we really are. Not just today, not just this week. But thanks to the power of YouTube, you can scroll back 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, even more, and see how we've evolved over time. Now, obviously, you're not going to watch them all, but just pick some days at random. Watch a little bit, fast forward a little bit, watch a little bit, jump to another month, another year, if you want. The more recent ones are going to probably be better for you because it shows everything we're currently doing, but you just pick. There's 2,500 episodes plus out there for you to give us a listen and a watch. Okay. youtube.com/CFRN. Now, our normal daily schedule, we start with our daily devotional, daily prayer, which we will do. And I got some news for you. Then I'll do a recap of the alerts. Michael is not with us today, so I will give you the results of the live training room myself. And then we'll wrap up the week with our good word for the day. Now, we just finished up the devotional, Who is Jesus? For the next 3 days, we're going to focus on the 23rd Psalm, possibly one of the most well-known scriptures in the entire Bible. Now, I'm going to give you Psalm 23, verses 1 through 3 from the Message translation first, okay? God, my shepherd, I don't need a thing. You've bedded me down in lush meadows. You find me quiet pools to drink from. True to your word, you let me catch my breath and send me in the right direction. Now, here's the King James Version, I believe this is. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. It's crazy to think that Psalm 23 is likely the world's most famous poem. We find its words on coffee mugs, displayed on signs, quoted at funerals. While this broad reception is a wonderful gift, familiarity also runs the risk of breeding contempt. We can approach this psalm without the respect and wonder it deserves. Our prayer for the next 3 days is that as we share and meditate and pray our way through this psalm, you'll be stopped in your tracks. We're asking God for the gift of new eyes and an open heart to him in this psalm. Now, the author of Psalm 23 is King David. He spent a season as a shepherd before becoming king. In Psalm 23, David likens God to a shepherd caring for his sheep. We want to highlight 3 simple yet profound truths we find in the first 2 verses. First, we are not shepherdless. When life or circumstances get crazy, it's easy to see chaos as either the absence of God or abandonment by God. We think things like, if God were real, this wouldn't happen. If he loved me or were near me, this sorrow wouldn't afflict me. And yet, here David loudly proclaims that in every season that we might find ourselves in, there is a shepherd. We are not a shepherdless flock without direction. We're not alone. Second, we have a shepherd with a name. Merely having a shepherd is not necessarily good news. Some shepherds can be cruel, mistreating their sheep. Bad shepherds can ignore their sheep or only look after themselves. David tells us that our shepherd has a name, the Lord. When you see Lord in all caps in the Bible, it's referring to God's personal covenant name that he gave to his people. In revealing his name, he aimed to reveal what he was like. In this case, it not only reminds us of his lordship, but also his covenant faithfulness. Though we are a wayward flock who often reject our shepherd, seeking out other shepherds who we think might provide for us in ways we want, amazingly, we find in God a shepherd who is faithful despite his sheep. We may be stiff-necked and not the most bright, but God is tender-hearted and faithful. He isn't vindictive, but has graciously coveted himself to his people. Third, we have a shepherd who leads and provides. God's name tells us that God is good, and his goodness manifests itself in two ways in these verses: leading his sheep and providing for them. God's sheep are never in want because he leads them and knows what they need to provide for them. In this passage, we find God extending food, green pastures, and drink, still waters, to them as well as rest. They are lying down in these green pastures of plenty with their shepherd. They are being led by still waters so they can drink peacefully. You may not know this, but a sheep will not drink from flowing water like a creek or a stream. That's why he leads them to the still waters. God's greatest demonstration of goodness and provision was in sending his only Son, who is known as our Good Shepherd, John 10:10, to take on flesh and become a sheep, one of us, and ultimately lay down his life for us, that we might be brought into the fold and family of God. He was abandoned and in want, that we might become beloved sheep. He was laid down not in green pastures, but rather on a gruesome cross and in a cold tomb. He was not led by still waters, but rather by turbulent waters for sins he didn't commit. This shepherd we come to is trustworthy and kind. If we as sheep could understand this goodness and trust in it more, we would leave his side much less often. Join me in a word of prayer, and we'll continue to discuss the 23rd Psalm for the next 2 days. Heavenly Father, thank you for being our shepherd, guiding us and providing for all our needs. We find rest and peace in your presence, knowing you lead us to green pastures and still waters. Restore our souls, Lord, and give us and guide us in paths of your righteousness for your name's sake. It's in Jesus' name we believe and pray. And everybody said, Amen. Amen. And happy Friday. I almost put in a new all-time historic high on the ES today, but we came up, last time I looked, about 3 points shy. But we're going to get into the markets now. We'll get into the charts. I got some news to share with you. Now, probably a lot of you think I'm going to take some big victory lap because of the way that debate went last night. I'm not. I won't say I'm not pleased, but I'm no victory lap. Because what I saw last night was, it kind of broke my heart. Joe Biden and I probably don't even agree on the same kind of toilet paper to buy. I mean, we agree on like zero. But as a human being, I felt so sorry for him. And I'm mad as hell at the people who staged this and put him through that when they knew this, they wanted this to happen because they want to get him off the ticket. They did not have to be so cruel. They did not have to publicly embarrass and shame him. You, Dr. Joe Biden, shame on you. And all the other high-ups at the DNC, shame on you. When the puppet's no longer useful, just throw it away. Go find a new one. That's anyway, I'm done. Not a political show. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. Start with the cash markets here in the U.S. The Dow's down almost a point. NASDAQ is down 12. S&P 500 is up almost 3. But the Russell 2000, our man in the street, is actually up 9.5 points. Pretty quiet sideways trade. In the commodity basket, crude oil down 7 cents, trading 81.67 last. Gold up $3.60, trading 23.40.50 last. Silver up 28 cents, trading 29.53 last. That's a gain of almost 1% and more than $1,300 per contract traded. In the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei posted a gain of 241 points. Shanghai rose 21. The Hang Seng rose 2. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE down 15. The DAX up 24. CAC down 51. No movers, no shakers there. So that gave us a green day in Asia. Not a big green day, but green nonetheless. It was a mixed day for the UK. And at the moment, it's a mixed Radio Friday here in the US of A. Got the Dow and the NQ slightly in the red. So slight. We have the S&P and the Russell in the green. Not a lot, but in the green. Now, you know we like to have all 4 of the major indices the same color as futures traders. The Dow just went positive by 2.5 points. NASDAQ still in the red, just a point. Because with futures, you can be long or short and long again, all in the same hour, if that's what the chart in front of you tells you to do. The reason we like to see all 4 the same color, red or green, is because that's when you have better follow through on your trades. There's no tug of war going on. They're all flowing in the same direction. But it is what it is, right? Now, before I get into the market news, I'm going to share this with you because this could affect somebody you know. Come on, did I lose that? I did. How did I lose that? I'm sorry, guys. Hang on, let me see if I can bring it back. I don't think I can because I already clicked on it once. Okay, let me try another way. Hang on. Supreme Court rules on obstruction. See if I can find that article again. Okay, is this going to be a video or can I read it? The Supreme Court ruled today that an obstruction law used to charge scores of January 6 rioters and former President Trump was improperly applied, spelling trouble for the Justice Department's far-reaching prosecution of the Capitol attack. The justices cited 6-3, not along ideological lines, for Joseph Fisher, a former police officer accused of storming the Capitol on January 6, who challenged one of several counts he faces, obstruction of official proceeding. The law makes it a crime to corruptly obstruct, impede, or interfere with official inquiries and investigations by Congress and carries a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison. It has been used to prosecute rioters who interrupted Congress's certification of the 2020 presidential election results. But Fisher and scores of other rioters claim the Justice Department retooled a charge that once criminalized document shredding to encompass the conduct of those who stormed the Capitol that day. It would be peculiar to conclude that in closing the Enron gap, Congress actually hid away in the second part of the third subsection of Section 1512, a catch-all provision that reaches far beyond the document shredding and similar scenarios that prompted the legislation in the first place. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote for the majority. The better conclusion is that subsection C2 was designed by Congress to capture other forms of evidence and other means of impairing its integrity or availability beyond those Congress specified. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson joined the High Court's conservative majority, while conservative Justice Amy Coney Barrett joined the liberals. Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan were part of the dissenters. Barrett wrote that her fellow justices failed to respect the prerogatives of the political branches. Anyway, this is a longer article than the one I had originally found. Merrick Garland said he's very disappointed at this ruling. So all those people that have been persecuted and locked up, some of whom, more than 350 rioters, were charged with obstructing an official proceeding on January 6th. Though most also faced other felony counts, 50 rioters were sentenced with the obstruction law as their only felony. It is our possession that the Supreme Court made the correct ruling on the obstruction charge. So a lot of people who are about to go to jail aren't going to jail, and a lot of people who are already in jail or have pled guilty are going to get a new trial. There's hope for America. I just had to share that with you. It is a big, every time you turn on the news, January 6th, January 6th. My goodness, for 3.5 years, that's all we've heard. January 6th, January 6th. Now, the Supreme Court has finally ruled. Took them long enough. But they are just throwing out all those charges. Now, I'm not a proponent of breaking into any building, damaging any property, sitting at somebody else's desk, hurting or harming anyone or anything in any way. No, I'm not Gandhi. I'm just a man who tries to follow in the footsteps of Jesus. I try to treat all people with dignity and respect. Do I agree with them storming into the Capitol like they did? No, I do not. Nor did the president at the time. He told them to be peaceful, but they weren't. And it was revealed last night, Nancy Pelosi on tape has said what happened at the Capitol is my fault. Either her daughter or granddaughter was interviewing her for some kind of school project, I think it was. And so those words are on tape. Nancy Pelosi has taken responsibility Because remember, Trump told them, hey guys, let me send in the National Guard before January 6th. And Nancy Pelosi said, no, you keep your National Guard. We don't want them. So anyway, let's go on to market news. What do you think? Enough of that stuff. A new reading from the Federal Reserve's preferred inflation gauge showed prices increased at a slower pace in May, helping the case for interest rate cuts this year. But despite another positive signal that inflation is easing after running hotter than expected in the first quarter, the central bank isn't likely to cut rates at its next meeting in late July. The Fed will likely need more time and evidence that inflation is moving sustainably down to its 2% target, making a first cut later in the year more likely. Well, that's good news, I guess. Any interest rate cut is good news. As U.S. stocks lock in a solid first half, investors are speculating whether political uncertainty, potential Federal Reserve policy shift, and big tech's market dominance could make the rest of 2024 a tougher slog. S&P 500 is up 15% year-to-date thanks to strong corporate earnings, a resilient U.S. economy, and enthusiasm over artificial intelligence that powered massive gains in stocks such as chipmaker NVIDIA. The index's steady march upward produced 31 new highs in the first half, the most for the first half of any year since 2021. 2021, really? First half has been very much a nirvana period for stocks. According to Tim Grisky at Ingalls & Snyder, the economy's been stronger than many people anticipated, including the Fed. If history is any guide, the momentum in U.S. stocks is likely to continue. A positive first half has been followed by additional gains in the rest of the year, 86% of the time, according to a CFRA study of markets during election years since 1944. But the ride could get bumpy. Political uncertainty is likely to be a more powerful factor on asset prices as investors focus on the U.S. presidential election. Recent J.P. Morgan survey showed investors see political risk in the U.S. and abroad as the top potential destabilizing factor for stocks. Shareholders getting in on the AI power trade, artificial intelligence, stand to gain from the immense energy demands of AI technology. But those same demands will have challenging ramifications for the sustainability goals of technology companies and put a massive new strain on the grid. Already this month, the major heat wave in parts of the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and Midwest flashed an early preview of a potentially stifling summer that pushed the power grid's load. We've had 2 blackouts here in Phoenix so far. Those demands pile onto the nationwide boom in data center development that's leading to a surge in long-term demand for electricity, which has done the impossible, made the utilities trade look hot. Power-hungry AI systems, the energy trade, is now the AI trade. To put AI's energy needs in perspective, a ChatGPT query, on average, requires almost 10 times as much electricity to process as a Google search does. Wow. And if AI companies have their way, users engaging with software powered by large language models will make less energy hungry, more efficient, you might say, making web browsers obsolete. The rise of generative AI coincides with a heightening of other factors increasing energy demand, from the electrification of transportation and infrastructure to the onshoring of U.S. manufacturing, adding yet another acute demand. AI systems need power all the time. Sam Marr, senior advisor at Arnold Ventures, said, "They're not going to be okay with intermittent energy for a data center." Now, you may or may not know this, but in the United States, 60% of all electricity is generated by burning fossil fuels. So, how is this electric vehicle thing supposed to help us? I'm going to say it again. In the U.S., 60% of electricity is generated by burning fossil fuels. The very thing that supposedly is going to end the world in a couple of years, according to Greta, whatever her name is, and AOC. God, did you see her dancing around at that rally the other day? I think she might have been possessed. Okay, you guys know that I have some very dear friends in Kenya. My wife and I built an orphanage in Kampala, Uganda, just right across the border from Kenya. But there's a lot of protests going on right now. Edith Wanjuka holds on to one of the few photos she's left with of her teenage son. His life was cut short by 2 gunshot wounds to his neck that were sustained during Kenya's deadly protests on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, in which more than 20 people were killed. Tuesday's deadly protests were called by young people who felt left down by legislators who voted for a controversial finance bill during its second reading. They had hoped to convince the legislators not to pass the bill. In the final vote, and it sailed through, and they stormed into Parliament and burnt part of the building. That's not good. Human rights groups have accused police of brutality and killings during the protests. I got people there I love so much. Pray for the country of Kenya and the innocent people. That country is so corrupt, it is unbelievable. Oil retreated today from a nearly 2-month high as traders weighed a weakening physical market against escalating Mideast tensions. Brent and West Texas intermediate crudes both fell, trading near $86 and $81 a barrel respectively. Oil remains locked in a narrow range as markets show rising U.S. supplies and China's economy appear to be sluggish. Yet rising conflict in the Middle East is putting a floor under prices. Israel is lurching closer to a full-blown war with Hezbollah in Lebanon, even as its fight against Hamas in Gaza continues. Meanwhile, Houthi rebels in Yemen have stepped up attacks on commercial shipping in the region. Now, commercial shipping, those aren't military men on those ships. They're civilians. China's economic outlook is a major factor weighing on the market. A demand slowdown in the world's biggest crude importer has forced refiners to cut operating rates and prolong maintenance. The U.S. outlook is more sanguine. The Federal Reserve's preferred measure of underlying U.S. inflation decelerated in May, bolstering the case for lower interest rates later this year. Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta President Bostic said he continues to expect 1 interest rate cut this year in the fourth quarter as inflation shows progress. P-prompt spreads are signaling some strength, with the measure for Brent rallying above $1.50 a barrel in a bullish backwardation structure ahead of the contract expiry. And you guys know that I am not an options guy, but that made sense to some of you. And our last news article, before we go to the charts, wireless charging of electric vehicles. Literally parking a vehicle over a concrete embedded charging plate and magnetically connecting to a vehicle is a niche mostly restricted to transit business and yard tractors that pull containers around a distribution yard. But as the rollout of plug-in charging is slowed by infrastructure build-out and a lack of timely energizing, the underground solution, also known as inductive charging, could expand to other uses. You know how your new iPhone, you can just lay it on the thing? You got to plug anything in, just charges. Even in my wife's car, the one with the cracked windshield, there's a little shelf. She can just lay her phone up there and a light comes on because it's charging. Now, you know, we've spent $8 billion to build 8 EV charging stations. That might not be enough to go around. All right. That's just all depressing news. So let's lighten our spirits and go take a look at, let me tell you what happened in the live training room this morning. This morning, when the live training room opened, it took 7 minutes, 2 trades, to hit $3,060 with 18 contracts. Michael will be rolling to 19 contracts on Monday. And if you started this January, you'll be rolling to 7. If you started the 2420 blueprint this year, as we hit $12,705. So we hit our monthly target. So Monday, July 1st, we'll go to 19 contracts. And everybody's been able to watch it live in real time. Everyone who becomes a passport holder gets the 2420 blueprint. Michael has played it out right in front of you every morning in the live training room, day after day after day. And remember, it took him 7 minutes and 2 trades to make $3,060 with 18 contracts. Now, you don't start with 18 contracts. You start in demo and learn the strategy. And after you put together 10 consecutive days in a row where you reach your goal in 10 trades or less, only then do you think about going live. The blueprint will give you permission to go live with 1 contract. Now, that contract is funded with your startup capital, the money you use to open your account. You're going to trade 1 contract until you increase your account balance by $2,000. Then the blueprint's going to give you the go-ahead to add a 2nd contract. The big difference is the 2nd contract is funded with profit you earned in the market, not your startup capital. The 2420 blueprint will tell you when it's time to add contract number 3, number 4, number 5, all the way up to number 20. But you only add 1 at a time, and you only add with profit you earned in the market. If you have the discipline to follow the blueprint the way Michael has, that could be you. It's called the 2420 blueprint because it's designed to help a trader go from 1 to 20 contracts over a period of 24 months. All right, Logic 247. This is our 24/7 around-the-clock E-mini alert service. However, it's not just E-minis. It's also crude and gold and silver, euro, and bonds. We're in week 308 of Logic 247. And over the last 308 weeks, we've issued over 17,000 individual handcrafted alerts. And we've averaged, on a weekly basis, 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out based on market structure, and a very simple process we teach all of our passport holders in their free one-on-one mentoring sessions. Now, Valerie did the recap this morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. I've only put out 2 alerts since then, but this is where we stood at 8 a.m. Eastern. Since the markets opened this past Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, we've issued 67 total alerts. 6 never triggered. At the time she did the recap, we were still waiting on the outcome of 14. That gave us 47 actionable alerts, of which 6, or 13%, would have been stopped out, again based on market structure and a very simple process that we teach all of our passport holders. Now, I haven't done this in a while, so I'm going to do it as I can. And you need to understand, so let's work together here. Very quickly, I'm going to roll through. We'll take an in-depth look at the CTAs. We're going to take a brief look at week 308. Last week, week 307, we ended up with 47 total alerts, 9 never triggered, 38 actionable, 7 stopped out, 18%. Remember, our average is 20% or less on a weekly basis. So week 308 began Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern when the markets opened. That's when the week begins. That's when we go to work. Not Monday morning at 9:30 like a stock trader, but Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern when the Globex market opens. So the first trade out of the gate was a B, stands for buy. So this was a long trade on the ES. Okay. Thumbs up mean things worked out. Then we had a short on the ES. That also worked out. Then we had a S means sell. T means initial target. PR means potential resistance. Potential resistance. Potential resistance. And then the weekly trading zone. S means sell. B means buy. Here's a short on the Dow. We had a long on the Dow. We had a short on the Dow. Beautiful thing about futures, as I said earlier, you can be long and short again in the same hour if that's what the chart tells you to do. Had a stop out on the Russell. Had a short on the Russell. Had a long on the NQ. Now, a lot of people will ask me, people that have been around a while, okay, so when do I enter this trade? At 19,968. That's what it says. Sell 19,968. Initial target on the NQ, that's $200 per contract traded. The initial target on every other market is $100 per contract traded. Still waiting. Short on silver. Now that all happened Sunday night. Then we roll into Monday morning. Long on the Dow. I accidentally duplicated one. Stop out on the NQ. A buy on crude. Sell on the ES. Still waiting. Short on the Russell. Now we're into Tuesday. Short on the ES. The initial target is designed to help you get your goal for the day. And then by looking left, I come up with these additional targets. And then the final trade to target is always the weekly zone below. So when Valerie did the recap, price was at 55.12. So from 55.17 to 55.12, well, that's 5 points at $50 a point. That's $250 per contract traded. Then we had a short on the Dow, short on the Russell, long or buy on the NQ. Now, this alert only went up to 19,950, but price went all the way to 19,968. That's an additional 18 points at $20 a point. Long on crude, short on gold, stopped out. Short on silver, long on the ES, a stop out on the Dow, stop out on the Dow, and then a long on the NQ. This is where I screwed up another one. It was replaced below. Valerie, oh, it's a painstaking job doing this recap. Valerie does such a great job. Okay, here's a long on the ES. The alert called for it to get to 55.46. It got all the way to 55.51.75. It's gone higher than that since then, but we only recap the first trigger. Now, something you'll learn when you become a member is that these alerts tend to trigger multiple times. For the purpose of the recap, we just clock the initial trigger. If it's a stop out, it's a stop out. If it runs to the target, it runs to the target. But you would be well advised to keep an eye because the market loves to repeat itself. So what it did here, if we went and looked at the chart, it probably did it again and maybe even again. Long on the ES, short on the Russell, long on the NQ, short on crude, a stop out on the euro. Now, I put this note in just to remind everyone this week. All alerts remain valid opportunities until triggered. If I have duplicated any alerts, I apologize. Thankfully, Valerie is very good at catching those when doing the recap. Trust me, the recap is a painstaking job, and we are blessed to have Valerie, who does such an exceptional job. Thank you, Valerie. Okay, now we roll into the 26th. Got a short on the ES. Still waiting. Still waiting. Still waiting. Another duplication. Those are my fault. Long on the NQ. Still waiting. Short on silver. Long on the ES. Short on the ES. Short on the Dow. Short on the Russell. Short on the NQ. Still waiting, still waiting. Short on silver. Still waiting. And now we're rolling into Thursday. I screwed this one up because my charts were frozen. My bad. Long on the Dow. Long on the Russell. Long on the NQ. No trigger. No trigger. And I messed up a few. Still waiting, still waiting. Long on the ES. Short on the Dow. Long on the Russell. Long on the NQ. Still waiting. Still waiting. Long on silver. Short on silver. You can go long and short with futures at the drop of a hat if that's what the chart tells you to do. And now we roll into today where I've only put out 3 alerts. I've overworked Valerie already, so I may not put out any more today. Now, the logic alerts are designed to help you learn how to read the chart, okay? When you started school, if your parents hadn't already taught you to read, first thing the teacher has to teach you is how to read. Because you can't learn anything else until you can read. You know, turn to page 32 in your textbook and read the page. Well, before that can happen, somebody's got to teach how to read. And that's where most traders get messed up. They don't have anyone to teach them how to read the chart. See, a Chinese newspaper is written in Chinese. I couldn't read it. A Russian newspaper is written in Russian. I couldn't read it. But an English newspaper I can read because I read and speak English and think in English. Well, trading has its own language, and it's displayed not in the form of words, but in candles and bars on a chart. Every chart tells a story. Once you learn how to read a chart, you know instinctively what the next high probability move is. And about 20% of the time, the market is going to do the opposite of what you thought it was going to do once you learn how to read. And I will work with you closely one-on-one in private mentoring sessions to make sure you learn how to read a chart properly. Okay? Every chart tells a story. You deserve to know what it's telling you. Okay. Now, 308 weeks. That's a long time. But before we had Logic 247, we had our original alert service, the concierge trade alerts. Now, the logic alerts can come out anytime around the clock, 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. Futures trade around the clock. We have traders around the globe. Our day session is our night session and vice versa. But the CTAs, okay, first you cut your teeth on the logic alerts as you learn how to read the chart. Then your next step to becoming a self-sufficient trader, which is what we want for you. And if you want to learn how to trade for a living, it's never going to happen as long as you have to depend on someone else to tell you when to get in and when to get out. You got to learn to do it yourself. And that's what we teach you. Okay? Now, the CTAs don't come out around the clock. They're published as a static report shortly after the Globex Open. Now, the previous night, I got them out as soon as the bell rang for the Globex session, 6 p.m. Eastern. Last night, I was a little more sluggish. I didn't get them out till 6:50. Okay? All alerts, by the way, are created on a 30-minute chart, logic and CTAs. First thing you do when this report is published is go to the 30-minute chart of whatever markets you trade and make a note where price is at this time. It'll always be between these two numbers. Then draw a line in the sand at the long target, line in the sand at the short target. Those will serve as great visual cues to help you stay on the right side of the street. And when we go to the charts, you'll see what my line in the sand looks like. You can make yours look any way you want. If price gets above the 30-minute BBC, it's attempting to reach the long target. If price gets below the 30-minute BBC, it's attempting to reach the short target. BBC is the green line you see on my charts. When price crosses above the green line, we're bullish and anticipate higher prices. When price crosses below the green line, we're bearish and anticipate lower prices. Whether it's a daily, weekly, monthly chart, 30-minute chart, 5-minute chart, tick chart, range chart, it's always relative to whatever time frame you're looking at. When price is above the green line, the BBC stands for bull-bear cross. When price is above the green line, you should be bullish and expect higher prices. When price gets below the green line, you should be bearish and expect lower prices. Always relative to whatever time frame you're looking at. Now, with the Logic 247, that's where I taught you to read the chart, to determine all those different targets that you saw. This is where you learn to look left yourself. And you learn how price behaves at a weekly trading zone. That's important because price is always trying to reach a weekly trading zone. From the moment the markets open Sunday night till they close Friday afternoon. Price gets above the 30-minute BBC, it's trying to get to the weekly zone above. If price gets below the 30-minute BBC, it's trying to get to the weekly zone below. We've published the zones for our members every week since December 14th, 2009. Almost 15 years. They're published for members and trial members Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Now, once they're published, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They do not change in any way whatsoever. So as we walk through these individual markets, I want you to remember that the zones you see on the chart were published Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Other than that, just resist the urge to make it more complicated. As long as you know which way the wind is blowing, it's pretty simple to reach your goal for the day. So, to the charts. S&P Emini Futures Daily Chart. Now, you probably don't trade a daily chart. I don't. But it's where I go to get valuable information. Whatever you trade, maybe it's a different futures market, maybe it's individual stocks, maybe it's crypto, maybe it's Forex, maybe it's ETFs. If you'll train yourself to spend 2 minutes with the daily chart before you drop to the smaller time frames and start trading, I believe you'll see your results improve over time. Now, here's why the daily chart is so important. Institutional traders are the ones who actually move price. It has to do with their account size and the incredible size that they trade in. So, whatever you trade, if you'll spend 2 minutes with the daily chart, you can see what the deep pockets are up to. It's like you're looking over their shoulder. Okay? Early on in the day, they were bullish and tried to put in a new all-time historic high. The all-time historic high is 55.88. Today's high, 55.85. So we failed by 3 points to reach the all-time historic high. That's a sign of extreme weakness. Look at that big wick. Now, we said yesterday and last night that red and falling overhead, that represents resistance. See, on the way up, blue and climbing is your friend. Once the black step line crosses blue and climbing, that tells us we're going to probably see a pullback to the BBC. When blue and climbing becomes red and falling, even more likely. But for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive trading days, the market has found support at the 62% fib extension. Right now, we're sitting on top of the step line. And because the step line is directly below price, it's acting as support. If price gets through the step line, then expect support, obviously, at the 62% fib extension, 55.17/18. Then this low right here from June 17th, 54.89. Look at where the daily BBC is, 54.89. So this low and the BBC are perfectly aligned. I believe that's going to act like a magnet. And by the close today, I think we could very well be at the daily BBC. Now, I could be wrong. The market could reverse and just go through the roof. But that's not the most logical thing to happen. You see, as I said, every chart tells a story, and you've got to learn to read that chart and create a narrative like I just did. On your 30-minute chart or your range chart, you don't know that 55, 35, and change is major potential support. You also don't know that this is major potential support. And you don't know this is major potential support. See, the larger the time frame, the more important the information it relays. So, train yourself to spend 2 minutes with the daily chart of whatever you trade And I honestly believe that over time, you'll see your results improve. Remember, our strategy and indicators, they weren't created to outsmart the institutions with their infinite resources. They were designed to help us see and understand what they're doing and why, and where the obstacles are, because we want to do the same thing they're doing just long enough to get our goal for the day. Remember, this morning it took Michael 2 trades in 7 minutes to get the goal for the day, and at 18 contracts, that was over $3 grand. That could be you, but you're going to have to show up, you're going to have to do the work, you're going to have to ask the questions. We trade every market exactly the same. You'll never hear us come in and go, oh, today's a slow day, so we're going to trade it like this, or today's an up day, we're going to trade it like that, or it's a fast moving market today, so we're going to use these tools, or today's a slow day, so we're going to use no. We trade everything exactly the same every single day. Now remember, I said the step line would act as support. See how we're bouncing? Red and falling is resistance. Step line is support. And more support right below it. And then more support right there. Okay. 30-minute chart. This is where all alerts are created. The logic alerts you just saw, and the CTAs that I just showed you the list of. The vertical line separates today, Friday, from Thursday, from Wednesday, and if I kept going back, you'd see Tuesday and Monday. Now, these zones were published Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. When price rallies up to a zone, we expect resistance. When it drops to a zone, we expect support. When it overcomes a zone, we expect it to go to the next zone, which we expect to be resistance. We overshot it. That was off that 10 a.m. news this morning. But then look how quickly we reversed. And we got back below, and we hit the short target. Leg retrace, leg retrace, leg retrace, leg, big retracement. Okay? That's how price moves. In every direction, all the time. Leg retrace, leg retrace, leg retrace, leg retrace, leg retrace, leg retrace. See? So you could have got your goal early last night. Now, it was almost at the close of this candle that I published the CTA alerts. So if you'd gone long on this candle right here, we'll call it 55, 52, ran up to 53.75, and then the next candle took you all the way up to 54.75. So you had a chance to get your goal for the day right there. Leg, retrace, and then bang. We go through the target. Pull back to the target, find support, run into trouble at red and falling. Now, price always reverts to the mean. In our case, the mean is green. We call it the BBC, bull, bear, cross. Bullish above it, bearish below it. Bullish above it, bearish below it. Okay. Now, price always reverts to the mean. So we got below the BBC and we put in this big leg right down to the short target. Okay, to the tick. Our traders and everyone on the trial right now had these numbers last night at 6:50 p.m. Eastern, right before that candle closed. To the tick. Okay. Now, only 3 things happen at a weekly zone. 70% of the time will be consolidation. That's what you're seeing here. 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 And here. 20% of the time, rejection. Price comes down to the zone, and by the time the 30-minute candle, see, this was a red candle all the way down. But by the time the 30-minute period was over, that red vanished and it became green. And what does that mean? It means the pullback held and ran up to the next resistance. And that resistance sent it back down to support. Zone to zone to zone. These zones, again, were published Monday morning, 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Once you learn how price behaves around a weekly zone, they will become one of the most important tools in your trading toolbox. If all I had were the weekly zones and the BBC, I'd be fine. But the other two indicators you see on my chart, they help me, okay? And I'll teach you how to use them if you become a member. The Dow. Here's where we opened last night. Just kind of flatlined. Then we popped up to the zone, resistance, consolidation. That's what's going to happen 70% of the time. And we ran up. I think we missed a target, it looks like, by a tick. Resistant sent us to support. When price pulls back to the BBC, we expect it to hold until proven otherwise. Now, in this case, you had support times 2 because it pulled back to the zone and the BBC at the same time. Support times 2. But sent us back up to the target. This resistance sent us below the BBC. We touched the zone below, but you see how both of these candles are still touching the BBC? So the pullback held, and look where it took us. We found resistance there, came all the way back to the long target, found support, ran back up to that zone again, and then we made one more attempt, and now this is where we are. We're below the BBC with red and falling overhead. 39.5, well, there's not enough room here. So I would wait for price to take out this low, and I would trade 39.440 to 420. That would give you your goal for the day. Don't want to get below that low. I want to get down to 440. You could probably get in at 450. Yeah, 450 down to 420, that would be 30 points. That's $150 per contract traded. On the Russell, here's where we open, consolidated at the zone, and then ran to the target. Resistance sent us back to the zone, which is 2065/66. That support sent us back to the target. Consolidation at the zone, and then a pop up to the target, resistance, back to the zone support, back to the target, a pull back to blue and climbing support, which took us up here where things got a little messy. When you start seeing big wicks like that to the upside, you can be pretty sure that the market's getting ready to change its trajectory and start heading in the other direction. This is a transition from an uptrend to a downtrend. Leg retrace, leg retrace, leg retrace, leg retrace, leg retrace. Until price can go no higher, because nobody will pay 1 tick more. It takes financial commitment for price to rise. But all it takes for price to fall is for the institutional buyers to hit the pause button on the buy side. If they try repeatedly to move price higher and they can't, then they stop buying. Otherwise, they get fired. And when the institutions that specialize in short selling realize that the buyers have hit the pause button, guess what? They come out of the woodwork and they can drive. Price can fall a whole lot faster than it rises. financial gravity. So what do I expect from here? 2058 to 2056. Goal for the day. Yeah, it may come all the way down to the zone. But you see, price has to get below this double bottom. And I want it to get below that low. I want it to get down here. So that's a very conservative window of opportunity. 2058 to 2056. Now, if it's cooking, you can just stay with it and ride it on down. Or you can just grab your 2 points and be done for the day. NQ. Here's where we opened. Above the BBC. Got above the zone. And we hit the target. By what? 9:30. Resistance sends us back to the BBC support. So we make a run higher. And then we pull back to the zone that was published Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Now, yesterday that zone was resistance. Today it became support. And price tried to get to the zone overhead, but it couldn't quite make it. That's a sign of weakness. This uptrend is about to turn into a downtrend. We're below the BBC. We got red and falling overhead. We've already hit the short target. But this is all so tightly wound in here, I'd be very careful. Okay. Could you go 972 to 962? Yeah. And that would be $200 per contract traded. Okay. Crude oil. Here's where we opened last night. Right up to the target. Now, it was at the end of this candle that I put out the CTA numbers. So let's say you went long here. We opened at 82.05 and ran up $150 to the target. Then we kept going right to the zone. Now, I mean, it's been almost 15 years, but it still amazes me. Here it is Friday. These zones were created were published Monday morning, created Sunday night. And they're still doing their job. So we've hit the long target, we've hit the short target. Lots of two-sided action today. Gold. I drew a window of opportunity in last night, I think in the workshop, or it might have been on the broadcast yesterday afternoon. Price never penetrated the window. Came right down to it. See, I wanted it to get below these lows. And it did, but not enough to trigger. So support bounces us up to the BBC, which gives us a tiny leg to the downside. And red and falling turns to blue and climbing. Get a leg, a retracement, a leg, and we hit the target. The target being 23.42. No reason to ever think about the short target yet. This price has to get below this low before it can happen. So actually we've got a low, a higher low, and a higher low. Now gold is on top of the BBC. And it looks like red and falling might be wanting to curl and turn into blue and climbing. If so, that's bullish. So you need to get above the zone, which is 44.45. Then you could trade 46 up to 49. That would be $300 per contract traded. Silver. Silver, you only need 2 pennies to get your goal for the day. Okay, so last night we dropped to the short target, which was based off this bullish cross. When you have a bullish cross that leads to an extended move, the first time price revisits that area will almost always be good support. And it was. Turned the market around and sent it right up to the long target. Resistance sent us back to support at blue and climbing. And that support sent us all the way to the zone where we spiked it, but we consolidated. This candle closed red. Blue and climbing turned to red and falling. We dropped back to the long target, which acted as support and bounced us up to the BBC. We got red and falling overhead, so I would consider being short 29.53 to 29.49. That would be $200 per contract traded. On the euro, here's where we opened last night. We dropped right to the target, to the tick, as they say. This support bounced us up to the zone resistance, which sent us back down to the target support. This support sent us up to the BBC, sent us back down to the zone. Then we got a leg and a retracement, a leg and a retracement. You see how all these times these 30-minute candles came down, they found support at the zone. And where's the market finding resistance right now? Same place it did yesterday. These zones were published Monday morning. Wouldn't you like to come in on a Monday morning and have the zones all laid out for you? Oh, and it looks like my window guy's here. I'm going to put you on hold a second. I'll be right back. Just don't go away. We got more to cover. My apology. That was the windshield guy, and he's now replacing my windshield. So we have made it through all the markets. Found support where we expected, resistance where we expected. Same resistance as yesterday. Go back a couple days, support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, back almost to support, up to resistance. And on the daily, we're sitting right on top of support at the black step line. We get through that black step line, then expect support where we have found support 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row. We find support there today, that'll make day number 6. To become a member, go to mytradingiq.com. If you have questions, call 949-42-EMINI. You can always email us, support@cfrn.net. 9 out of 10 new traders fail. Why? Because they did not have a teacher to first teach them how to read and then teach them how to trade. People buy books, they buy courses, and there's nothing wrong with those things. But they're not a replacement for a living, breathing teacher. Putting on, taking off trades live in real time, explaining every move he makes, every trade he takes, and the reason why, while you trade along in demo to qualify to go live, and asking every question that pops into your head. Your questions are not an interruption of the live training room. Your questions are the purpose of the live training room. So, when you become a passport holder, you get 2 hours of live training every trading day. On top of that, you get private one-on-one mentoring at no extra charge. The strategy you learn, the indicators you own as a passport holder are fluid across all markets and all time frames. Futures, stocks, crypto, Forex, ETF. Doesn't matter because price flows the same across all markets and all time frames. Like I just showed you. From support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over, again and again. Never-ending cycle. The beautiful thing is with the BBC and the weekly zones, you know ahead of time where the market is likely to find support and resistance. As a passport holder, you also get the Logic 247 alerts, concierge trade alerts, the weekly trading zones. You're able to attend the members-only workshop on Thursday night. And you get the golden key that opens the private channels in Telegram. You see, every workshop on Thursday night, record it. We archive it and put it in a private channel in Telegram. So not only will you be able to attend the members-only workshop live, but you'll also have access to years of members-only workshops. Do you need to watch them all? Of course not. What you need to do is show up for the live training room every day. Ask lots of questions. Book one-on-one sessions. And we'll get you going. Oh, and as a passport holder, you have around-the-clock support via Telegram. So don't worry about being in a different country, okay? We got you covered. mytradingiq.com. Guess it's time to wrap things up with our good word for the day. And our good word for today is be faithful to God at work. Whatever you do, do it from the heart as something done for the Lord and not for people. Maybe you don't like your job, maybe you don't like your boss. Work for God, okay? Do your best. Sure, maybe you got aspirations, you want to move up, you want to move on to, something that you truly desire. But whatever job you have right now, don't work for man. Do your best job as a believer in God. That's what that scripture's telling you. If you were in charge of hiring people at work, what will you look for? Skill, dedication, punctuality, reliability, patience, kindness, and consistency? Well, Jesus said in Luke 16:10, whoever is faithful in very little is also faithful in much. Life mostly consists of little things. So if you're unfaithful in little things, you will be unfaithful in most of life. Do you possess a guilt pile at work? It's that little stack of items you haven't got around to yet. Faithfulness includes how you handle it. It may not matter much to you that someone has sent you an email or written you a letter, but that person anticipates an answer. Their world may be counting on it. So again, how do you manage the little things in life? Jesus said in Luke 16:12, and if you have not been faithful with what belongs to someone else, who will give you what is your own? If you own the business you work for, would you be taking all those extra coffee breaks? Would you buy the rental car you just abused for a week? How you handle things that are not yours is a test of faithfulness to God. See how sensible this is? Faithfulness is important in all areas of life. God says you will be rewarded for your faithfulness. So do your best at everything, whether it's your job, washing the dishes, or cleaning the toilet. Whatever you do, do it from the heart as something done for the Lord and not for people. Colossians 3:23. And my grandmother, she was my go-to as a kid growing up. She taught me everything I needed to know about living the Christian life. But I had no interest in leading a quote-unquote Christian life. Oh, I believed in God, but I wanted to party, man. And when I found out that I could join the Navy at 17 and get a military ID card, I could party in states where the drinking age was 21. You know, there's the old saying is if you're willing to take a bullet, you should be able to get a beer. Now, was that faulty thinking on my part? Yeah. From 17 to 37, I was a basket case. But at 37 years old, I came to the end of myself. And I had a huge encounter with God. I said, God, my life is a mess. I can't take it anymore. I said, God, do one of two things. Take my life right now. And I meant, take me out. I said, or give my life purpose. If you choose the latter, God, I'll serve you all the days of my life. Now I'm well into my 60s. So, growing up, my grandmother planted all the right seeds, and she never got discouraged because they didn't bloom right away. During those 20 years I was out in the wilderness, every time I spoke to her, she never condemned me. She always spoke words of blessing over my life. She'd always ask, son, have you and your wife found a church? No, Granny, not yet. Son, please do. They'll become like your second family. In fact, some of them will become closer than your natural family. And I was courteous and kind, but that just sounded like a bunch of malarkey to me. Until I had that moment at 37 years old. And when I surrendered my life to God, I said, take it or do something with it. Oh my goodness. I did not hear the voice of Charlton Heston. The ground did not shake beneath my feet. But within 1 year, I had a successful company with 50 employees. Who could do that but God? Now, those 20 years in the wilderness, I made a ton of money. But I was like the prodigal son. I wasted it on bad things. Just leave it at that. But when I came to my senses and said, I'm going to follow Jesus, everything changed. Now, I can't promise that's exactly how it's going to play out for you, but I can promise you that's where you start. As a follower of Christ, you should have a reputation for being the most dependable person on the job. Why? Because you're aware of who your true boss is. That's our good word of the day. And for the week, remember we got a holiday next week, July 4th, so there may be some quiet sideways trade, you never know. Pre-holiday trade can often be weak, but we'll be here except for the day of the 4th, and we'll trade what's in front of us. So again, if you haven't taken the free trial, go to mytradingiq.com. Click that link at the top of the page, 5-day free trial, no credit card required. We'll do our best to get your indicators indicating today on your desktop. Play around with them over the weekend. You'll be ready to hit the ground running Sunday night. That's when we go to work. But maybe you won't show up till Monday morning. Now, when you take the trial, you're not just getting access to the live training room. You're getting access to everything our passport holders have access to for 5 consecutive days without spending a dime. 5 consecutive trading days. And as I said earlier, because of this holiday and the weekend tomorrow and next weekend, you're actually going to end up with like a 9-day trial. Okay? mytradingiq.com. Click the link at the top of the page. Make sure you fill out that form properly and hit submit. It's an automated process. If you don't fill it out properly, we won't get it. You won't get a free trial. But if you do it today, we'll do our very best to get you set up today. So again, you can get familiar with the indicators over the weekend. Some markets do trade over the weekend. Crypto, Forex, and maybe those aren't markets you trade, but you can still see how price behaves with the indicators, okay? And then you'll have all of next week and next weekend and the following Monday, because we're going to be off 4th. Okay? All right. I hope you have a great weekend. Spend lots of quality time with those that you love. And if you haven't had your encounter with God like I had at the age of 37, I encourage you to do that. Everything will change. Now, it didn't happen overnight. But one good thing after another good thing after another good thing. Within a year, I had a profitable company with 50 employees. Who but God could do? And I'm telling you, I was a washed up, wiped out mess. I had made tons of money over the course of my life, but I had wasted it all on foolish things. Just like the prodigal son. But when I came home to God of my grandmother, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because she had planted all those seeds in me as I was growing up, even while I was out in the wild. When I decided in my own heart to follow Jesus. I knew how to walk like a Christian, talk like a Christian, how to be kind, how to be gentle, how to put other people's needs ahead of my own. And that's a big one right there. If you're miserable, you're probably self-centered. I'm just saying it because it's true. It was true of me. The moment I got my mind off my own situation and my own troubles and started looking for people worse off than me to help, man, the world just opened up. And I want the same thing for you. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.